Problem says to use the properties of logarithms to rewrite the expression, simplify the result as much as possible, assume all variables represent positive real numbers. So the properties of logarithms they're talking about are the product rule, the quotient rule, and the power rule. And so we're starting with log base 2 of the square root of 3r to the 7th over z to the 5th. Now, we notice that we do have a product, we do have a quotient, we do have a couple of powers. However, overall, we have a square root. And so we can't use any of the other properties until we can get rid of that square root. And so we know from our exponent rules that the square root is the same thing as the 1/2 power. So we can get rid of the square root by rewriting it as the 1/2 power. And so we're not changing anything, we're just rewriting that. So instead of the square root, we're going to rewrite that as the 1/2 power. Now we can use our power rule because what we're taking the log of is ultimately this whole thing raised to a power. So we can use the power rule to undo that power. So remember with the power rule, the power comes around front as a multiple. So we end up with 1/2 times the log base 2 of 3r to the 7th over z to the 5th. Now what we have the log of is ultimately a quotient, something over something. And so we need to break up that quotient before we can do anything about the product or the powers. And so when breaking up that quotient, we do need to remember that this is 1/2 times the entire log that comes after it. Even if we break it up into pieces, we still have to multiply the entire thing by 1/2. So we're going to need parentheses to indicate that everything that comes after it is multiplied by 1/2. So when we're breaking that up using the quotient rule, we're going to multiply all of the pieces by 1/2. So 1/2 and then parentheses, and then we're going to break up the log base 2 using the quotient rule. So log base 2 of the top, 3r to the 7th, minus log base 2 of the bottom, z to the 5th. So we use the quotient rule to break it up because it was a quotient. And we've got 1/2 times the whole thing. That's why we have the parentheses around it. You could go ahead and distribute that 1/2 and write it as 1/2 times log base 2 of 3r to the 7th minus 1/2 times log base 2 z to the 5th. And that's the same thing. You can either go ahead and distribute, or you can use parentheses to indicate that everything is multiplied by 1/2. Either way. Now we notice that we do have powers. We've got a z to the 5th and an r to the 7th, but we also have a product. And so we can't do anything about this r to the 7th yet because it's multiplied by 3. So we're going to have to break up that product first. Again, 1/2 and then parentheses because everything's getting multiplied by 1/2. And then using our product rule, we end up with log base 2 of 3 plus log base 2 of r to the 7th. And then we still have minus log base 2 of z to the 5th. Again, you can go ahead and multiply everything by 1/2, or you can leave it as 1/2 and then parentheses indicating that everything is multiplied by 1/2. Either way. Now, the last thing we can do here is use our power rule again, here and here. So again, the power rule means the power comes around as a multiple. And so we end up with 1/2 and then parentheses because everything is getting multiplied by 1/2. Log base 2 of 3 plus 7 log base 2 of r minus 5 times log base 2 of z. And at this point, there are no further products, no further quotients, no further powers. So we cannot use the product, quotient, or power rules any further. This is as simplified as it gets. The only other thing we could do is go ahead and distribute that 1/2 to each of those if we wanted. And so you can enter your answer like this, and that will work. Or you can go ahead and distribute the 1/2 and have 1/2 times log base 2 of 3 plus 1/2 times 7 is 7/2, log base 2 of r minus, and then 1/2 times 5 is 5/2, log base 2 of z. So again, either form, either one of these is going to give you the correct answer. And so over here, when we're entering our answer in MyMathLab, notice we've got two answer choices. The second one says the expression cannot be simplified. Well, we know that's not correct. We did simplify it. So we're going to choose that first answer choice there, and then we're going to enter our simplified answer here in the box. And so we have 1/2, and then we're going to arrow over and put log. And then we need the base of our log, which we're going to have to use our MyMathLab toolbox for that. And so then in the base, we're going to put 2, and then we're going to arrow over, and then we're taking the log base 2 of 3. So we put our 3, and then plus. And so notice I'm entering the last answer after we multiplied everything by 1/2. So now we have plus 7/2. Then we're going to arrow over and put in our log, and then we need our base. So again, we go back to our toolbox for the base, and then we have log base 2, and then we're going to arrow over because we're taking the log of r, and then we have minus, and then we have 5/2, and then we're going to arrow over and we do log, and again we need our base, and so our base again is 2, and then we're going to arrow over, and this time we're taking the log of z. And so that's after we've distributed the 1/2 to everything. That is our answer. And I'm going to show you that it also works if we enter it with the parentheses. The first way we have it written there. So the 1/2, and then we're going to arrow over, and then we're going to open parentheses, and then we're going to enter log. Again, we need the base of our log. Our base is 2. Arrow over, we're taking the log of 3, and then we have plus, and then 7, log, and then our base, and then our base is 2, and then this time we're taking the log of r, and then we have plus, oh, sorry, minus, and then we have 5, log, and then again our base is 2, and we're taking the log of z, and then we close our parentheses. And this was the first way without distributing the 1/2. As long as we have the parentheses there, that one works as well.